It is happening again. Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite movies, and today I am going to do a movie review on a movie that's released a long time ago, and that is Blue Velvet by David Lynch. I figured that, now that I have a lot of time, I'm going to try and watch more classic films or more films that are more talked about um, and popular. And for a very long time, I have been interested in David Lynch and his work because he seems like a very eccentric person, because he is, and his filmography is probably one of the weirdest in the world, really. I mean, we have movies like Eraserhead, which is this really strange experimental avant garde horror movie in black and white, which explores the burden of being a father, but maybe not. And then, of course, we have David Lynch's magnum opus, or at least in my opinion, his magnum opus, the Twin Peaks series. We have the original Twin Peaks seasons 1 and 2, aired in 1990 and 1991, and then we have the Twin Peaks Return, aired in 2017. Also, the couple of movies in between the Return and season 2, Fire Walk with Me. And Twin Peaks, I've watched all of the TV episodes, and I very much enjoyed it for how abstract and strange and freaky and weird and confusing it is. Even though in the beginning, especially for the return of Twin Peaks, I really had no idea what I'm watching. I really can't give it a score because it's not even a TV show anymore. The story is barely existent. The characters are a blur, they're a haze, there are all these scenes that don't seem to mean anything. Everything's super weird, super slow paced, and super strange. David Lynch, ladies and gentlemen, David Lynch. I also really want to watch, I haven't watched it by the way, Mulholland Drive, starring Naomi Watts. But anyways, let's talk about one of the most critically acclaimed, if not the most critically acclaimed Lynch movie, Blue Velvet. So, Blue Velvet is an American horror or thriller movie about how in a small town, a boy, even though he's like a grown man, Kyle MacLachlan plays the boy, but he's still studying in high school, so a teenager by the name of Jeffrey found a severed ear, near his home. And so he was very curious and he decided to investigate where that ear came from, and slowly he uncovered a whole network of just criminals and strange, dangerous people, uncovering the very dark and strange secrets hiding underneath this seemingly safe and beautiful town. And then we have Laura Dern, who plays the character of Sandra, who occasionally helps with Jeffrey's investigations, but very soon realizing that Jeffrey is getting himself into some really dangerous trouble, Sandra decided to stop helping. And essentially, what Jeffrey discovered was that there is this singer in the nightclub, and she always sings the song Blue Velvet. That's what she's known for. And her husband and son were kidnapped by a guy named Frank, who is very psychotic, very dangerous, and violent. Frank is played by Dennis Hopper, and Frank also worked with several other people, and together they like to deal drugs and do bad things, essentially. So, this movie is probably the most normal thing I've seen from David Lynch so far. Actually, maybe ever. This is, yeah, like, I was actually kinda I'm not gonna say relieved, but I'm actually kinda surprised that a David Lynch movie can be this normal. But still, in comparison with other movies, it's nowhere near normal. It's still a very, very strange movie. That being said, the plot is actually very straightforward. The movie itself is actually very accessible. The pacing is totally fine. There really isn't any scenes where I find boring or filler at all. And that is pretty much it. Now, do I think this movie is a fantastic movie? Not really. I don't think the plot is really that groundbreaking or anything. It's just an innocent boy discovering and uncovering these dark secrets of his town. Not really that interesting or engaging of a plot, in my opinion. However, what I really admire about this movie is the atmosphere. I think David Lynch is the master of atmosphere. Similarly, in Eraserhead and in Twin Peaks, the atmosphere he creates just with imagery, colors, sound, and these very unnatural, uncanny dialogue. Together, they create this very eerie and uncomfortable atmosphere that is just hard to create in cinema, unless you're David Lynch. The musical composer for this movie is the same one in Twin Peaks, and the music is pretty great, especially with the songs being involved in this movie. Given that this is a David Lynch movie, you'd know that there will be uncomfortable sex scenes, gore, very strange gore, as well as musical moments. So we have multiple scenes where the nightclub singer, or Dorothy, that's her name, Dorothy would sing songs in the nightclub. And then there's another scene, which is my favorite scene in the entire movie, where Frank and his gang basically goes to another person's place, Ben's place. And then it was a very intense scene. It was really because Dorothy was in there too, and Dorothy was fearing for her own life. It was really intense. And then suddenly Ben turned on some music and started lip syncing and dancing to the song, and it was such a weird moment. And then Frank, given how psychotic he is, he stared at Ben with such frustration and anger, yet admiration, and and just I don't really know how to describe it, and it's such a strange and uneasy moment, yet for some reason it just really works into the film. It just makes the film so much more eccentric, especially at the end of the scene when Frank decided to leave Ben's house. They just disappeared. That was a really cool edit in the movie. In that scene, we also see Jack Nance showing up, and Jack Nance is actually one of the close collaborators of David Lynch. Rest in peace. He appeared as the main character in Eraserhead, and he was also in Twin Peaks. There is a fish in the percolator. Which leads to another thing I really like about this movie, and that is Dennis Hopper's performance as Frank. Really horrifying, really terrifying. He swears in every single sentence, and he always breathes in this gas mask, and whenever he does this, he would turn psychotic, he would turn crazy, and those scenes are really, really unsettling. And yeah, overall, the little quirks in this movie, while again, this movie isn't as weird as some of the other works by David Lynch, in my opinion, but still, it has its weird moments. Like suddenly we would get jump cuts to a candle being blown out, and then a voice in the background, it's Frank's voice saying it's dark now. So we would constantly get these jump cuts that seem really out of the place, and towards the end we would have these very trippy scenes as well. Yeah, overall, just like any David Lynch movie, this movie is a mixture of strange lust, mystery, and darkness. Also, there's this duality thing going on because Sandra, played by Laura Dern, she is a good girl. She's a good girl. And we have Jeffrey, the main character. Jeffrey is almost stuck between the good side of the town and the dark side of the town. Like, he really wants to uncover the dark secrets, but the more he tries to do that, the more he ventures into darkness and become a part of it. But then at the same time, he's doing it because he wants to help the good side, but then he starts to not know what the hell he's actually doing, and there's this moral ambiguity element, or more like the bright side dark side ambiguity concept in the movie that I really really enjoy. But other than that, I think it's again a really straightforward movie, simple 3-act structure. The first half of the movie is relatively slow, even though I don't think the pacing is off, but it's relatively slow. It's not that interesting. Towards the second half is where things started to get more intense and a bit more urgent and suspenseful. But yeah, it's a pretty simple movie with some really, really amazing and mesmerizing and dark and eerie and unsettling atmosphere, which really makes this movie one of the more uneasy watches I've had in 2020 so far. Even the sex scenes in the movie. I mean, this David Lynch does not shy away from sex scenes. There are a handful of them in this movie, and all of them are just so weird. It's like what the heck? But yeah, that's maybe if I rewatch this movie, I'll like it more. But so far, I think it's pretty good. But that's pretty much it. I'm saying Blue Velvet is a movie worth watching, especially if you're a Lynch fan, and I'm giving it a strong 8 out of 10. So, have you watched Blue Velvet? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.